education great again. It's a logic fallacy, but I guess we're not going to teach our kids about logic fallacies.
Thank you.
We haven't yet with the Department of Education in place the way it has been since 1980. I'm on the record of ruling for change.
I now recognize the ranking member for her closing statement.
Rosa Delauro didn't just challenge Secretary McMahon. She dismantled the entire premise of what this administration is trying to do to public education. And she did it with receipts, history, constitutional law, and a level of moral clarity that has been missing from Washington for a long time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Madam Secretary, for being here. I appreciate your time and your effort. Let me just repeat. State and local taxes overwhelmingly pay for education in this country. And what we do know is that if you block grant current federal funding and you get it to the states, there is a cut. There will be programs cut. What we do not know anything about at the moment is what is going to be cut. We have no knowledge, and we're doing this hearing about appropriating dollars on a budget that we know nothing of at the moment. So, given that, but block grants we know are cuts. There is everyone at this dais, people who are here and people who are gone. And more than anything else, the states know that. You talk to any governor, and they will tell you they're going to cut our funding. And I dare to say there are not a lot of states today and a lot of governors who have the resources that they will need in order to be able to continue these programs. Let me also say, Madam Secretary, as I said in my remarks, you have no authority to dismantle the Department of Education. The President has no authority to dismantle the Department of Education. And yes, the Supreme Court has opined on that with Supreme Court Justice Scalia saying there's no inherent authority. And there's plenty of other cases and court determinations that it's not there, so you don't have the authority. You do not have the authority to steal congressionally appropriated dollars. That is in the United States Constitution. I hear people in the administration talking about adhering to the Constitution. Article 1, it's there. So what you are doing now, get to your budget for 2026, what's happened right now is unlawful. It is unlawful. And you have really unlawfully created and recklessly canceled grants for mental health, for the professionals in our schools, for psychologists, counselors, social workers, grants to support effective educator development, teacher quality partnership grants to make sure that more qualified educators are entering classrooms and relieving local teacher shortages, the Institute of Educational Contracts to researchers so we can learn about what works and what doesn't work to improve student literacy, which you care about, reduce chronic absenteeism, ensure college students complete their degrees so that they can get a good job. You have no authority. If children, teachers, principals benefited from a federally appropriated program in the last school year, they should benefit from that program this school year and not be subjected to any unlawful chaos that you seek to impose on them. You said right here and several times this morning that you will abide by the law. And I believe that. The law is 2025 budget is under a continuing resolution based on the 2024 budget, which has pages of directives as to what can be, what are the resources for, what the programs are for. As I understand you and your commitment to abide by the law, which means that we are going to reverse these efforts that apply to 2025. And we will hold you accountable to that. I am glad to hear that you will abide by the law. And we all know what the law is. It was passed in the House. It was passed in the Senate, Civics 101, and the president signed it. It's the law of the land. You can't back off it willy-nilly. Let me mention I have a copy here of the table, Labor, Health, and Human Services, and Education-related agencies here. And this is, move to the 26 budget. And people need to know this. Impact aid, we have no information about. Comprehensive Literacy Development Grant, eliminated. Innovative approaches to literacy, eliminated. We go to school improvement programs, most of it to be determined. We don't know where it's all going here. Indian education, no info, to be determined. Innovation and improvement. Basically, there's money for the charter schools, but everything else is to be determined. Safe schools and citizenship education, no information. English language acquisition, eliminated. I go back to my father. Couldn't read or write the language. They laughed at him and he left school. We do have kids in our schools who need to have English language and to do it quickly. That's what we talk about here. Special education, rehabilitation service and disability research, no info. Special institutions for persons with disabilities, no info. Career and technical and adult education, training, no info. And we had the Secretary of Labor here just a few days ago, and they have eliminated adult training and youth training in the WIOA programs here. Adult education here, eliminated. We don't know what will happen to Pell Grants. That is to be determined. The CEOG program, a Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, eliminated. A Student Aid Administration, to be determined. This is higher education, eliminated parts of it, or there are or no specifics. International education and foreign language, no specifics. Post-secondary programs for students and intellectual disabilities. You got federal, you got TRIO and Gear Up, eliminated. No specifics. Teacher quality partnership, eliminated. Child care access means parents in school, eliminated. Fund for the improvement of post-secondary education, eliminated. Howard University, no real specifics in that effort. Long and the short of it, this is the table that this committee with appropriations is what we're doing is without any information, we are being asked to provide resources, and resources that have been cut by 15%. The $12 billion, we have no idea where it's coming from. So the 18 programs are getting eliminated, replaced with a block grant that's cutting $4.5 billion, and we have no idea and no detail of what is on the chopping block. That should say something to my colleagues on the Appropriations Committee, because this is our job. The role of Secretary of Education is an enormous responsibility. The American people look to the man or woman who holds this post as someone who performs their responsibilities with deep knowledge of our public schools and colleges. But when you opine about strategies to improve literacy, how to improve academic achievement, or help people get a college degree, I struggle to see why the public should look to you as such an authority. What experiences, what knowledge that you bring into this role that should give them any confidence that what you say or what the administration is saying is credible in terms of the future of their children.
What Rosa Delauro did in that hearing wasn't just push back on a bad budget or scold a cabinet secretary for sloppy answers. What she did was issue a warning about the direction this country is being dragged in, quietly, bureaucratically, and deliberately. Because when you strip away the jargon, block grants, efficiencies, restructuring, what you're left with is a political project that has been decades in the making. Shrink the federal role in public education until it barely exists, shift responsibility to states without giving them the money to meet it, and then stand back while inequality deepens and the system fractures. This isn't new. We've seen versions of this playbook before. It shows up whenever public institutions start working too well for too many people. When education becomes a ladder instead of a gatekeeper, suddenly it's bloated. When research helps identify what actually improves literacy or keeps kids in school, suddenly it's wasteful. When federal oversight protects civil rights, supports disabled students, or ensures English learners aren't abandoned, suddenly it's overreach. And that's why the lack of detail matters so much. The chaos Delauro described isn't an accident, it's the mechanism. When nobody knows what's being cut, when programs are labeled to be determined, when billions vanish into block grants with no guardrails, accountability disappears. Congress can't oversee what it can't see. The public can't debate what hasn't been disclosed. And communities can't plan when their funding might evaporate at any moment. That uncertainty alone does damage. School districts freeze hearing. Colleges pull back financial aid. Support services pause or shut down. The harm happens before a single formal cut is even finalized. And all of this is happening while the administration insists it's abiding by the law. That's the most chilling part. Because Delauro isn't arguing about interpretation, she's talking about foundational civics. Congress passed a budget. The Senate approved it. The president signed it. That's the law. You don't get to selectively follow it based on ideology or convenience. You don't get to pause programs you don't like. You don't get to test how far you can push executive power and see who stops you. That's not reform, that's erosion. And history tells us where that erosion leads. When executive branches decide appropriations are optional, when agencies treat Congress as a nuisance instead of a co-equal branch, democracy doesn't collapse overnight, it thins out. Norms weaken. Precedents are set. And the next administration, and the one after that, pushes a little further. Public education just happens to be the battleground this time. Which makes sense, because public education is one of the last institutions that still operates on the radical idea that everyone deserves a shot. Not just the wealthy, not just the well-connected, not just kids born in the right zip code speaking the right language. Federal education programs exist because states failed to protect that idea on their own. They exist because segregation was enforced locally, because disabled students were excluded locally, because English learners were ignored locally, because poor students were written off locally. So when federal protections disappear, we already know what happens next. We've lived it. And that's why Delauro's final question cuts so deeply. Why should the public trust you? Not trust your intentions, trust your competence. Trust your understanding of the system you're dismantling. Trust that you know what you're destroying and who it will hurt. Because when you eliminate mental health supports at a time of rising youth anxiety, when you slash teacher pipelines during nationwide shortages, when you gut literacy research while claiming literacy is your priority, credibility collapses. At that point, this stops being about education policy and becomes about power. Who gets to decide the future of millions of children, and whether those decisions are grounded in evidence, law, and lived reality, or ideology and indifference? Rosa Delauro wasn't grandstanding. She was doing her job. She was defending Congress's authority, the Constitution's clarity, and the idea that public education is not a political toy to be broken and rebuilt depending on who's in charge. And the reason that moment matters is simple. If they can do this to education, quietly, vaguely, unlawfully, then nothing else is off the table. Not labor protections, not environmental rules, not civil rights enforcement. This hearing wasn't the end of the story. It was the alarm bell. The question now is whether this administration will be held accountable. It's whether Congress, the courts, and the public are paying close enough attention to stop the damage before it becomes permanent. If you care about public schools, about constitutional governance, or about a country that still believes opportunity shouldn't depend on your parents' income or your first language, then this isn't some inside baseball budget fight. This is the fight. If this breakdown hit home, let me know in the comments. Especially if you're a teacher, a parent, a student, or someone who's already seeing the effects of these cuts on the ground. Like the video, subscribe and stay with the channel, because hearings like this are where the real story is being told, and most people aren't watching closely enough.